countries around the world, Hajj is supposed to be the pinnacle of your spiritual journey. Yet it has been anything but that recently. In my speech, I'll tell you three things. Number one, I'll tell you how the commercialization of Hajj has inherently robbed religious people from their spiritual journey. Number two, I'll tell you why this is only an incentive for the Wahhabi-backed Saudi government to have political gain. And thirdly, I'll tell you how this unnecessarily necessitates individuals who cannot afford to go to Hajj, right? Before that, let's talk a bit about this debate. What does commercialization necessarily entail? We think commercialization happens on a wide scale when very, very prolific or lucrative companies have ads, that bombard individuals that are already spiritual and religious in nature. They have advertisements telling them of different packages. Obviously, opposition can argue, but hey, commercialization inherently means, oh, you have a cheap package. No. Recently, especially, the hiking of prices has been so much so that even your cheapest package is not really affordable for individuals who have to spend years on end to save for a future that's not even assured. Because at the end of the day, they still might be at the lower pecking order and they might not even get a chance to go. But this is how it works as well. If you are a company that owns very, very prominent lands nearest to the mosque or nearest to the most historical sites, then you can necessarily charge individuals higher. If you have a package from Riyadh, that means you don't have to walk that far to pray. But if you were like my mother, who went to Umrah 3 times and still could not get a package for Riyadh, she had to be deprived of a spiritual journey just because her pockets were lined thinly compared to other individuals. We think this is what commercialization necessarily dictates, that only some of you, no thank you, some of you will have the privilege of fulfilling spirituality to a certain extent, while others may not be so lucky and might end up, dying on the way of going there. But first, let's talk about why this robs individuals of the particular religious experience. Because when you talk about incorporating luxury, this is when we want to principally argue that religion as a whole is supposed to be the most inclusive form of framework for everyone. Yet when you put luxury as a stamp or luxury as a form of criteria as to how you can get to the pinnacle of that religion, we think it's a problem in and of itself. That's why it's very difficult for you if you are situated in a hotel that's very far to travel from Mina to Arafah, right, on foot. You, more often than not, you might not end up doing it, which deprives you of that experience in and of itself because you didn't have the money to freaking go to a 5-star hotel in Riyadh, right? But also, secondly, we think there is a drive, an incentive, at which point you commercialize to make it about luxury, creating more luxurious places within that country to attract more people to come in. That destroys the whole notion of people wanting to go to Makkah in the first place. It's not to go to big hotels. It's not to go to the more prolific and luxurious places. It's to complete your journey in and of itself. But they will continuously target those kind of specific places if they want to go to Hajj. Because more often than not, those are the places they think are the most convenient. This kind of incentive for the government or whoever decided that Makkah is now exclusively Saudi Arabia's government allowed for the very notion of them to contract subpar contractors, which ultimately led to the collapse of the crane, which killed hundreds of people. We think that necessarily meant that there was no safety mechanism. But even if we want to argue that on a practical level, you can achieve some form of safety, we think at a principle level, that is not necessarily something that adds value to that particular religion. Because at the end of the day, safety can't even be assured because you've already marred your religion and your intentions with very, very selfish intentions to begin with, right? But before I move on, yes?
Ma'am, you said that all this kind of 5-star environment would be there, you would be proud of your religious journey. The thing is, when 5 stars today, it doesn't mean that the other places are not very more, and the 2 stars are
yeah, man. But then I'll talk about that in my third point later, right? Just keep that in mind. But let's move on to the second argument. Why do we think that the Wahhabi-backed government, or Wahhabi-backed Saudi government, can now use this as a tool for political gain? Because we think, now that it knows that Makkah is necessarily somewhat exclusively theirs, and they know that all of the Muslims in the world will travel to them and them alone. They have that leverage to make some form of political gain. How does this happen? Because knowing that a lot of Muslim countries will also look at them, they not only have an incentive to raise taxes, hike prices, but they also have an incentive to make sure their allies are necessarily individuals who can back their political ideologies. We think that's particularly harmful. That's why you have Saudi government pulling out or like bankrolling a lot of NGOs who are pro-Wahhabi in value. And we think that's particularly harmful because it means that licenses that are necessarily given out because you support an ideology that is necessarily detrimental to the whole form of unity that Islam is supposed to provide. We think it becomes solely about political gain. But let me move on to my third argument, which will address Alia's POI, right? Oh, 2-star hotel will exist too. Okay, number one, they're still not cheap. But even if they are, that means you create that distinct barrier between someone who is inferior in pocket as inferior in religion. Someone who is someone who does not have enough money shouldn't be able to be deprived of the situation or the experience to go to Mina, to go to Arafah from Mina conveniently, right? But also this whole idea of putting luxurious values or having hotels in the first place has become the very impetus as to why Makkah is continuously growing. It's no longer about attracting Muslims for its spiritual value. It's about necessitating individuals who don't have enough money to also go there. It makes them, it forces middle-class people who have disposable incomes to take out large and substantial parts of their income and instead of using it from a practical terms, force themselves to go to Makkah because of this whole idea of commercialization that is bombarding you in your face, right? We think there is no way you can have a practical outcome from it. We think rampant commercialization necessarily hampers your rational calculus and it necessarily destroys the very notion of you practicing your religion. It doesn't become about what you believe in anymore, it's about how much you have. And that's also very difficult because on a second level, we argue at which point there is an inferiority or superiority barrier. Even in Malaysia, right? You can say like a haji or a hajja that feels that they have more of entitlement to religion than someone who hasn't gone to Makkah, who hasn't performed their umrah or their hajj. We think that kind of perpetuity in barriers and inferiority and superiority is already harmful. Yet you exacerbate it furthermore when individuals who go to a sacred land to fulfill a particular journey now get deprived of certain advantages or certain experiences simply because of how much money they carry. We think that's problematic. But lastly, Mr. Speaker, we think that commercialization of Hajj makes you think you need to do it at all costs. We think that even in Islam, God tells you you can do it if you are able to. But the rational calculus is destroyed because when commercialization forces it into your face, you feel that there is no other way for you to complete your religion but to go to Hajj. We think that's also a problematic rational calculus that very poor people will have to face. Go inside, OG.
Alright, thank you. The Prime Minister, now invite leader of opposition to continue the debate here.
Good evening, Mr. Speaker, sir. On today's motion, the House requests the commercialization of the Hajj. We, the side government, are trying to say that we should maintain the status quo whereby the commercialization of Hajj will not be redirected. So before going on to my substantive, I'd like to rebut certain one given by the point of the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister's point revolves around the people are being robbed from the journey towards Hajj when the commercialization happens, and Saudi Arabian government gets political gain, having political gains, and there's unwanted privilege when commercialization of Hajj occurs and forces people with lower income to be forced towards this purchasing towards this unwanted luxury and ended up in financial problem. So, and she also said that when there is a commercialization, people be separated based on their income ability. So, we are trying to argue that when we commercialize Hajj, we are not cutting off or robbing people from journey, but we are forcing them to, not forcing them, we are actually increasing the ease of access towards this Hajj. And apart from that, when there's from what I know, when you perform Hajj, it comes for your spiritual gain. So, You see, so when you're going to Hajj, it doesn't matter what kind of Hajj you have. If you're able to fulfill your spiritual journey, I don't think a commercial gain will be applied to you. So, moving on to towards my substantive. The site opening governments stakeholders revolve around the pilgrims and the economic or the participation in the Saudi Arabian government itself. So, here we are trying to say that when we commercialize the Hajj, the ease of access towards people to perform this Hajj be more increasing. So right now, when there is a competitive market where the various tours and travels corporation that offers packages towards Hajj, then we create a competitive market whereby the prices of this package will reduce over time. Because when one company competes against another, they will try to drive down the price as much as they can in order to attract more people and more people go perform Hajj. So what I'm trying to say that right now, when private sectors are more involved in this journey of Haji, the price will drop down and more people go towards it, as opposed to what the government trying to say. Apart from that, right now in Malaysia, the status quo is, and one of the options is people invest, save their money in Tabung Hajj, and they're elected towards lottery system whereby when they have a lottery system, people are choose based on luck. But we're trying to say that when there is private corporation involved, the lottery system no longer applicable, whereby people can have enough money or they feel that they want to do it, they can choose the cheapest package or the best package suits them, and they can go perform Hajj. So going on to my second substantive, which is economic output. We're trying to consider this economic output from the perspective of Saudi Arabia and also the participating nation, whereby the pilgrims have come from. So as we saw the YouTube video earlier, whereby this Haji company from Indonesia is promoting the company, and we see that there's various facility being provided in Saudi Arabia. So we are saying that when there's a lot of pilgrims going towards Saudi Arabia stands to gain a lot of money because these people goes there, they will spend money, and at the end of the day, Saudi Arabia has to develop the infrastructure to a much higher standard. As you can see, when we go to Saudi Arabia, there's a large airport, futuristic facilities, where these pilgrims stand to enjoy it. But not only these pilgrims enjoy these facilities, but the local communities are able to enjoy these facilities that's been developed by the Saudi Arabian government. Apart from that, when there's more pilgrims, there'll be more tourist spending. As the Prime Minister mentioned that people will going towards this Riyadh and certain location where they will sightsee, this indirectly contributes money towards this local economy. Because when they go there, they buy souvenirs, spend on food, spend on hotels, so on and so forth. So this channels money towards the local economy, and then taxation will occur, and the Saudi Arabian economy will get money. Yes, please.
Saudi Arabia doesn't only just have an incentive to hike up prices, but tombs of Sahabas were necessarily destroyed to build new buildings. How is that being moderate and preserving religion, and how is that for the betterment of Muslims in the
We're trying to talking in terms of Haji, not other spiritual things. So when we are saying that there's more, because there's enough facility, more people can be accommodated to perform Haji, so more people go to Mecca. So going on, when we look at the perspective of the participating nations whereby these pilgrims come from, you can see that the economy of these countries also develop. And they are like, for example, in Malaysia, there are many travels and tours companies that have been established, and this local job market and local business are being developed because the economy is demand, because more and more nations are trying to perform their Hajj to fulfill their spiritual need in this world. So to accommodate this demand, more and more local corporations will be established to accommodate this thing. So apart from that, we also can see that the investment in facilities even in these participating nations. From what we can see, like for example, airline companies are having building more bigger airports, buying more aircrafts, and also increasing the frequency of flights towards Saudi Arabia. It's not only seen in Malaysia, but also other nations. But this is where I can see that airline corporations like Qatar Airways, Mars Airlines Singapore Airlines are able to increase their frequency and also increase their profit margin because they're able to have such a huge income from this Hajj pilgrimage that going towards Saudi Arabia through and from. Yes, please.
So if your number one goal is to make money, by that logic, would you allow people to visit like war-torn countries in order to gain money, because that's such an objective?
We are trying to say that this not only gaining money, we are trying to ease of access in terms of Haji itself, because as the Prime Minister pointed out, it's getting more and more harder for people. But we are trying to say that in competitive market, the price will eventually drop down because there's competition increasing. So we are saying that There has been economic input towards these participating nations and also Saudi Arabia themselves. So, in terms of commercialization of Haji, we're saying that it's beneficial to the pilgrim, the participating nation, and Saudi Arabia as a whole. With that, I'm proud to propose. Thank you.
Alright, thank you to the leader of opposition. Now invite Deputy Prime Minister. Yes.
Yeah.
The primary concern of this debate clearly isn't bringing tourism to the Saudi government, neither is it bringing profit to all of these people. There has to be two key questions that need to be answered in this debate. How does commercialization change things? And this side is supposed to contain why that's good, and we're going to tell you why it's not good. But secondly, the question that has been ignored till now, how does it affect the religious experience? Does it or does it not dilute the fundamentals that Hajj is supposed to stand for? If so, how do you probably trade off against that? The second question hasn't even been engaged with so far, and we hope there will be engagement in the future. So regarding the first question, what does commercialization mean? We tell you there are four directions commercialization takes us towards. First, commercialization by definition means inflation of demand. Bunny told you how. Commercialization means that really creepy advertisement you saw a few minutes back, but that creepy advertisement convinces a lot of people. Commercialization means you're bombarded with stuff like that. Commercialization means when you're a new Muslim going into masjid, or when you're a Muslim who probably just left job and retired, started going into the masjid and started associating yourself with the community, you're being bombarded by news like that. It means that even if you're a middle class working person and you don't have the money to go to Hajj at the first place, the inflation of demand makes you believe it is something you ought to do. But secondly, commercialization also means that people forget what Hajj is at the first place. Hajj isn't like any of the foundations of Islam. It's unlike any of the foundations because it's the only one that isn't compulsory for you. It's only compulsory under certain circumstances whereby you have the ability, both physical and in terms of wealth, to do it. So that's the second impact of commercialization, whereby people end up believing that it's something that they have to do. It's like prayer. It's like going to masjid 5 times a day. If you don't do it, you don't go to heaven. And the fear of hell is a really big fear. Really, I mean, like there are thousands of people who follow religion just by fear of hell. And when you tell them they're going to go to hell if you don't go to Hajj, and they are part of these societies that tell them the same thing, it means that they end up believing those things. That's the second impact of commercialization. The third impact of commercialization happens due to the nature of the status quo. The nature of the status quo being there is a monopoly by one nation. It means that only Saudi Arabia has control over everything. So the law of demand and supply simply doesn't apply because it's this one entity controlling everything. It means that if they do not like a particular agent in your country, if a particular agent in your country does not align with their ideological demands, they simply change these agents all the time. It means that if they do not like your country, they reduce and increase the number of people they will accept from your country. It means that they have control to all of those factors, and that's simply why there is no change in terms of the prices that they set. But the fourth impact of commercialization is essentially the fact that Saudi essentially that one country ends up defining all of those things. That one country ends up taking all the money, ends up taking all the licensing fees. The licensing fees often amount to millions of dollars from all of these agencies, and they take all these fees and simply profit from them. So those are the 4 things commercialization does, and we think all of those are extremely harmful things. What is the comparative? The comparative is very simple. The comparative is whereby many other religions like Buddhism or Hinduism also have holy sites, but what are they run by? They are run by people. The Islamic equivalent would probably be a waqf which is consisted of people who are not politically associated, who are not economically motivated, but simply people who are religious. A waqf which may easily be consisted of people from countries in OIC. In fact, OIC has a body, but they simply do not have any of the power. That's the 5th very pernicious impact of commercialization. Commercialization means that Saudi Arabia is, and this is where one is argument about Saudi's political incentive comes in. So this is the 5th impact of commercialization. How Saudi is perniciously told that the only way they will exercise any degree of control and power and dominance over the rest of the Muslim world is by holding on to this power of controlling all of these factors. On the other hand, if commercialization wasn't there, they simply wouldn't be able to do it. They simply wouldn't have the incentive to do it. At the very least, the alternative bodies would have a greater fighting power, and they would have more of a religious footing. But when money comes into it and it becomes an existential question for the nation to have control over commercialization, that's when commercialization never goes away. That's why we tell you commercialization is objectively bad. But before I delve into the spiritual factor, yes.
Even commercialization does not exist. It doesn't change the fact that Mukhas aren't in the Saudi government, and they can still use their political place if they want to do it.
Yeah, but I'm saying that when there is commercialization, they gain so much profit from it. They simply have no incentive to give it away. Under the alternative, they still have to listen to the countries from OIC. If it wasn't extremely commercialized, and that's pretty much the scenario, the reason we regret it is because if it wasn't commercialized, that's when other alternative bodies could set it. But more importantly, we regret it because these are the 5 pernicious harms that exist only due to commercialization. So you have to tell us why any of these harms wouldn't exist or do not exist or probably aren't important, and that's the contention that needs to be there in the debate. But secondly, in terms of spiritualism, and this is the most important part of the debate. I mean, religion is not just supposed to be something that's ready-made, and I've already told you what Hajj is supposed to be at the first place. Hajj is supposed to be about taking yourself through those experiences. It's not supposed to be about living. It's not supposed to be about having the highest amount of money so that you can simply live in convenient places, so that you can perform 5 times a prayer in Masjid al-Nawawi because you have enough money to go to Masjid al-Nawawi, to rent out that hotel that's near Masjid al-Nawawi, and that essentially creates a divide between these people. So it means that you essentially end up believing that you can go beyond what Hajj is supposed to be at the first place. But secondly, it also means that the whole spiritual value that Hajj purports is also taken away. What are those values? You're supposed to go for frugal living. You're not supposed to spend a lot of money. You're supposed to go for simple living. That's why you wear a simple robe, and you will pimp yourself up with gold, right? And that's the reason people are supposed to go to Hajj at the first place. What commercialization does is, at the very least, even under their best case scenario, they have to agree that it creates this elite class of people who go out from their car, enter their Rolls Royce, enter the airplane, and from there enter the VVIP terminal, and from there enter all the VVIP places, and they simply go through this whole experience of Hajj in a way religion didn't define it at the first place. It means that you have essentially taken away the thing that Hajj is made up of at the first place, which is supposed to be about brotherhood. The reason Hajj is so special is because Prophet said a black person, a white person, a person probably, I mean, right now we would even say a person of all sexual orientation. I mean, everyone can simply be there and everyone can feel equal. But even in the best case scenario, they have to concede to the fact that it creates these tiers, right? And when these tiers are created, everyone wants to enter that tier. And that's why even middle class people who do not have that sort of money end up saving all their life, because they see that and they believe that's the only way they will ever self-actualize. It creates all these artificial demands that simply shouldn't be there. That's what Hajj is supposed to be about. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Deputy Prime Minister. Now invite the leader of the street.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the last time I set my foot into Makkah was the year 2012, and I personally saw the structure of Masjid Kuching with my own eyes. Sadly, in contrast to what PM Sir said, The mosque was not destroyed because of commercialization. It was destroyed because the number of pilgrims entering Makkah yearly is increasing and increasing year by year. To cater to this need, we actually see the need for the growth of the mosque itself. That is why such things being destroyed. But then, to actually further elaborate what today's motion is supposed to be about, right? Today's motion is supposed to open up access towards these pilgrims to achieve the dream they want most, which is to go to Hajj, Mr. Sir. That is why we from the side of opposition completely disagree with today's motion, because we believe that it's one of the reasons that's going to impede upon the chances of these people to perform Hajj. But before I move on to my substantive, some rebuttal. PM came out and said 3 points, right? First, she believes that it actually incorporates luxury in what is supposed to be a noble journey towards achieving spiritual pinnacle. And second, she talked about how the Saudi government gains from this. And third, she also spoke about it will separate people from everything. But first things first, how about incorporating luxury, right? Mr. Speaker, sir, if you are a person and you have money to get those things, we don't see nothing wrong with that. Because at the end of the day, where you live or where you sleep or where you stay does not matter as long as you perform your Hajj in proper way payment, Mr. Speaker, sir. If you end up at the end of the day, you're still going to perform tawaf in Masjid Haram, you're still going to perform Sa'i Masjid Haram, you're still going to throw stone at Jumrah and everything. The same thing that's going to happen, and you're going to do, is still going to happen, regardless of whether you're going to sleep in a 5-star hotel or a 1-star hotel, Mr. Sir. Sit down, sir. And regarding the second point, in terms of Saudi government gaining, right, that thing happened just recently, And you know why that thing happened? Because the oil prices went down and they needed another way to actually gain more money, right? So they had to choose the other alternative that they have, which is in this case Hajj. Using a Hajj to boost the economy, we don't see nothing wrong in that, Mr. Sir. For example, in Malaysia, if Malaysia had dropped in terms of oil price, we had to see other ways of gaining money. That's why we actually raised up our oil pump prices recently. We don't see nothing wrong in that, Mr. Sir. And then in terms of the third point, right, separating people and everything, Mr. Speaker, sir, we don't see how it's actually a barrier between you and other people. Because when I went for Makkah myself, although I was living in a 5-star hotel, I still mingle with people who are from poorer backgrounds with me when I went to mosque and everything. This shows, I'm sorry, sir, that Hajj is actually a spiritual journey. When you actually go out there, you actually meet everyone and you can't separate yourself from that. You won't have a private bodyguard who actually say that you can't mix with these people and these people will actually prevent you from joining up with them. We believe the idea that performed by PM is actually very preposterous, right? Now, moving on to Deputy Prime Minister. Here, this point was talking about how it will actually affect the mind of the normal people who are out there, how people with middle class income and everything will actually persuaded when they say all these advertisements and everything, right? Mr. Speaker, sir, let me point out to you something. Most people who actually go for Hajj understand the importance of performing a Hajj before you die. If, like the PM pointed out, if you have the money to do it. Here, like you see, Mr. Speaker, that some of these people actually store money and everything to actually go and perform Hajj because they actually consider it to be a noble thing for them. We don't see how this is actually wrong, Mr. Speaker, sir. If they actually saw the benefits of this thing and through this advertisement and everything, and they actually used to store their money to achieve it, we don't see what's wrong in that. And in terms of final rebuttal, this Shita pointed out that when you go for Hajj, you're supposed to go for frugal living and everything, and therefore you shouldn't live in UMT community and everything. Again, I like to point out something, Mr. Sir. Yes, you might be a head of state and you might get a good hotel and a good place during the places like Mina, Muzdalifah and everything. But at the end of the day, Mr. Sir, like how Najib did, you still have to mingle with your own people, like how we mingle with the Tawang Haji, pilgrims and everything. You still end up listening to the same kuliah ceramah that you heard from all the other people, Mr. Sir. We don't see what is wrong in that. Now, before moving on to my own substantive, yes, opening.
Commercialization and inflation of demand necessarily makes you feel like you have to go for Hajj, even though it hurts you when you can't afford to go for Hajj.
Mr. Speaker, sir, that is why you have things such as Tabung Haji and everything. But then when you have Tabung Haji and when you have your commercialization process, right, we believe that you can actually store money for it to actually go there. And another thing, Mr. Speaker, you have to remember that these pilgrims are actually realistic people. If you don't have money, you can't force yourself to actually go there. You have to go step by step and try a way to achieve it, Mr. Speaker, sir. It's not that you're trying to like, okay, today I saw the advertisement, tomorrow itself I must go Haji because it's a necessity for me. Now, I'm done rebutting, coming to my own points, right? First things first, why that we think that we don't regret commercialization of Haji? Because one, we believe that it creates a competitive market. Now, they pointed out on how Saudi government actually raised the prices and everything, right? Here, like to see, we often see diplomatic action from Malaysian side to the Saudis on how how they can actually increase the number of pilgrims and everything. That's what happened last year, when it was initially reduced, some tabletop was done and the number was actually increased back to an acceptable number. How this actually improve an emerging market is that when we have this two-way contact, right, we actually enable our offices to be open at that side. It actually allows us to send all our best officers, all our best imams over there, and let them understand the culture of Haji, to further help the pilgrims who actually come over there to actually further develop a sense of understanding towards their culture, Mr. Speaker, sir. That is what's very important about this. When we have this emerging market, we actually allow our traders to go there and open up some markets and everything to actually help out local our pilgrims from our country to actually gain stuff that they can't buy from that country pilgrims, Mr. Speaker, sir. As you understand, right, Mr. Speaker, so when we go over there, we often think, okay, I don't want Haji, I don't want other stuff, I want perfume, I want to buy tasbih and everything. And those are the things that we actually make us feel more happy of going for Hajj, right? Then, second thing, we also believe that it gives a freedom of choice towards the pilgrim to actually get what they want. Like for example, right, PM actually pointed out about luxury and everything. Mr. Speaker, sir, we believe that commercialization is good because it gives you a freedom of choice to choose what type of places you want. Yes, we believe Hajj is a journey towards pilgrimage, towards getting a spiritual pinnacle. But you have to understand, right, if your choice to get what accommodation you want, what you do on for the pilgrimage is something different. But basic things such as food, accommodation and everything is based on your ability to bring out how much you can bring out from the pocket. If you have enough money to actually get it, then we don't see nothing wrong. We don't see what is wrong for you to actually get a 5-star hotel and everything. We don't see what is wrong for you to get what you want. Because at the end of the day, it's your money, Mr. Speaker, sir. You have the choice to do what you think is best for yourself. With that, I'm proud to close. Thank you.
Alright, thank you. The opposition now invite member of government to come up.
Ladies and gentlemen, apart from the discussion about whether commercialization creates distinction between rich and poor individuals, closing government will be the first one who will tell you in this debate what is the real purpose of Hajj, and what are the values that want to be instilled in spiritual journey. So we'll be the first thing. We'll be like bringing your principal argument of what does Hajj mean and what does the value that entails to it, right? So before I move on to the extension, let's look at few rebuttals. Number one, we need to characterize what does commercialization looks like. Number one, we think that commercialization also leads to individuals living a luxurious life in the way of how they do Hajj in the first place. For example, you stay in hotel. For example, tawaf and sa'i, you don't have to walk. You can just pay to the electronic wheelchair for you to not even to walk to that journey just because you don't want to get tired. These are the things that exist. In the absence of commercialization, there is not like everything will be shipped there, right? There will still be facilities there. Tabung haji will still be there, but it doesn't commercialize until the extent it becomes a luxury for you. So the comparative is opening opposition totally means the comparative. You are not staying there and outside, suddenly all people won't go to Haji. Suddenly like everyone will just stay at their home. No, but they won't live a luxurious life under outside the house because there's no commercialization of that particular thing. I mean, facilities will still be there. The airport will still be big enough to accommodate every single individual. The hotel will still be there, but it won't be as luxurious as in status quo. So let's look at few rebuttals, right? Number one, how they say it is the journey for individuals. We tell you why it's not true. For example, right? If you look at Masjidil Haram, the way of how it works, like hotel 5-star like Hilton monopolize the surrounding of that particular mosque, so that they overcharge individuals, but individuals have no choice at the end of the day. Because for example, if I'm a disabled mom who cannot walk that far, I have to also stay in this particular hotel, because if not, I can't bring my mom to the mosque. So we think, right, under other areas of the house, commercialization, monopolization, and how corporations capitalize on individuals' spiritual journey. And we think like competition doesn't exist. In fact, that these hotels have grown bigger ever since that I've been there twice already, and it has grown bigger and bigger. It means the competition doesn't exist. In fact, it will create more monopolization in the future. So secondly, they say it helps locals on the ground to actually get some money, right? First, it's not like the concept of commercialization they are talking about. It means local businesses will still exist, right? But the point is, we think that some form that commercialization is status quo, how it works, that big corporations are the one one who are doing it and not like local individuals who are doing it, and they still benefit on the outside of the house. So let's look at extension. The stance from Code CG is that commercialization dilutes the values and subvert the spiritual fulfillment among the Muslims. So let's look at purpose of Hajj. This is like very important, very distinct from opening government. The purpose of Hajj is number one, is the test for Muslims to test how strong their faith is and all the hardship that they went through, and also about how this how strong their faith is when they have to go on the hardship in the first place. Second, it's also about interaction between Muslims. For example, about how Hajj, the concept of Hajj is to bring all Muslims from all over the world to interact with each other, and that's how, and we think that's the particular fundamental principle there. So we think the way of commercialization work in status quo is that all the values are sidelined and not be taken into consideration. Commercialization of Hajj redefines this spiritual journey. Supposedly, for example, it's supposed to be about the values that you must actually have in yourself. For example, about how they want to go to hardship. For example, like Sa'i, to appreciate the hardship that Siti Hajjah has went through. So we think that under yourself, when you have to even to walk to go to Sa'i, you have to walk to do tawaf, right? So what will you do is that under yourself the house, you will just spend your life in this luxury like facilities or whatsoever. For example, like people post selfie in Al-Haram Mosque and they think that they already fulfill this spiritual journey. So we think it's subvert about how individuals feel like about the spiritual journey, and all the values are not instilled in themselves. And the harm is these individuals, they have the false sense of spiritual fulfillment. It means they think that, oh, I've done enough. I went to Mina, I went to Muzdalifah, I went to Arafah, and now I'm a good Muslim by Islam. No, we tell you that commercialization actually dilutes the real values that should be instilled in individuals, like the hardship, and also about how the strength of your faith that you should go in the first place. Second, we also think that in the end of the day, it becomes a norm because individuals will just think Haji as a checklist, right? After I go to a Haji, then I've done enough, then I have to do anything anymore, without reflecting the quality of Haji that they went through in the first place. We argue on the outside of the house, even if less people will go to Haji, we completely okay with that as long as the quality of the Haji is so much significant than just individuals go there and just have like luxury vacation when they are free, right? So the comparative on our side is to get more meaningful experience for individuals on the ground. Thirdly, we agree that fulfillment is hard. Individuals might not get it, but we think it's good because it's hard, right? It should be hard for individuals to get all these values because this is not, because Hajj is one of the biggest pillars in Islam, and it should be hard for you to obtain that spiritual fulfillment. It shouldn't be something as easy as you paying just to get all the spiritual values that you want. Before I move on, NDPR. No. So second principle, interaction. We think one of the biggest objectives of Hajj is to bring all Muslims together from all over the world. For example, like Surah Al-Hujurat verse 10, in Amal Mu'minun, all the things, right? So we think, for example, in 9 Zulhijjah every year, they have to stay in one place called Arafah. But what does people from rich countries, for example, like first world countries like US, also UK do, is that they will set up tents, like a really cool tent, and they will segregate individuals in that place because they don't want to interact with another people from third world countries. So it is completely harmful to the principle of Hajj itself, about how interaction is the most fundamental thing that should be prioritized. So we think, even if OO said that people might interact with each other, we say yes, we agree, but it reduces the amount of interaction on your side of the house. Compared to our side where everyone will stay at the same place. It won't be like a shit place, right? There will be a place for everyone to stay in the first place, and people will interact with each other from first world countries and third world countries. So the conclusion is the real purpose of Hajj is about going to hardship, and it's about appreciating all the things that people have went through in the past. It's also about interaction between individuals on the ground, and it cannot be a celebration like what exists in status quo. Closing government is the only thing who will tell you in this debate what is the real purpose of Hajj in the first place and what does Hajj entails in the first place. So we argue to you that the way of how we change this is by making commercialization, in absence of commercialization, is how it can only work. In the presence of commercialization, what will happen is some people will still choose to segregate themselves, some people will still choose to not go to the spiritual fulfillment. Instead, they will think that I have already done enough, I have to do anything else. We think the comparative on our side is yes, less people will go in, less people we might don't go to Haji, but we agree that's a good thing because in the end of the day, quality is what matters and not the quantity of people who go in there. So we think that's why in the end of the day, people can get spiritual fulfillment that is much more valuable compared with the checklist where you already done this and I've done enough. For all those reasons, we are so happy to propose.
Right, thank you, Member of Government. Now invite Member of Opposition.
A poor person, without commercialization, a poor person is less likely to be able to go to Hajj itself because this kind of accessibility is denied from him. Why? Because commercialization at the end of the day results in a difference of prices. Because all this competitive, all this profit driven, you want to outdone your competitive, therefore you want to reduce the price because you want people to come and get the best package that you can. This reducement in price in order to garner more people for your tourism service will result in the most lowest price in order to allow poor people to come. Without this kind of without this kind of commercialization, we believe that even to have a ticket to go to Mecca itself will be very expensive. All these kind of services will only be limited to the most privileged people within the society, right? But then closing government came up here and tried to tell you and tried to sell to you the idea that the comparison now is a luxurious life in Mecca or not a luxurious life in Mecca. We reject that, right? Because the comparison here right now is you being able to go to Mecca or you not being able to go to Mecca at all because of all these hardships that you have to go because of all this inaccessibility that is thrown to your face, right? So therefore, before moving on to my rebuttals, I'm going to bring on like three substances today, right? First of all, how it affects the most vulnerable part of the society. Second of all, how it results in an upgrade of the facilities in Mecca. And lastly, how it curbs the idea of Islamophobia. But before that, like sit down. Before that, closing out came out here and told you that people would get a false sense of fulfillment, right? The thing we ask you then, like, who are you to judge the sense of fulfillment? Because sense of fulfillment to everyone is very subjective, right? Because at the end of the day, in order for you to say that you are Hajja or Hajj, you have to complete all the required procedures in order to complete your Hajj itself. We believe the core experience in having a Hajj itself will still be there. Why didn't Allah or Prophet himself make it like obligatory for you to go through all those hardships, right? Because they believe that all those sequences of all those stages in order to complete those Hajj itself is already enough for you to have that kind of sense of fulfillment. They believe that it's not allowed to impose an idea for you to maybe like force you to stay at one place, right? Sit down. We believe at the end of the day, the comparison here is like, even if you want to say that we provide, like commercialization provides a false sense of fulfillment, we believe under your paradigm, less people are able to get any kind of sense of fulfillment, right? Because at the end of the day, spiritual state is defined by yourself. At the end of the day, under our paradigm, at least a lot of people can get spiritual sense of fulfillment no matter how they judge their fulfillment is, right? And then they came up here and talked about interaction. The thing is, interaction itself is like when you go to Hajj, most of the time you spend is you completing the procedures in completing the Hajj itself. These kind of procedures, when you do it, you have to mingle with everyone, because when you tawaf itself, you have to be with everyone itself. So therefore, we believe interaction is still there. But other than that, the shopkeepers before this does not have the initiative to learn about the language of other people. Now they do because they want to have people to come to their shops. We believe we actually increase more interaction, right? But moreover, right, at the end of the day, we believe that they say that we're going to give sit down. They say that we're going to give a different kind of like experience, and we're going to make an exclusivity of experience. We tell you that this kind of exclusivity in experience, whereby some people are more privileged to experience some things, it has started since the era of Prophet itself. It is not born out of commercialization. What am I talking about? Prophet went to Mecca while riding on camels, and other people are still walking to Mecca itself. This kind of differences already exist since long ago. It's not even the fault of commercialization. Even without commercialization, these kind of things would still prevail at the end of the day. But second response, right? These kind of people who walk, they don't mind to walk, or this kind of difference of exclusive treatments. Why? Is because they make their experience more valuable, right? Because they believe in the concept that all the hardships they go through experience their kinds of sins. At the end of the day, we provide you the best proposal, right? Because at least they can choose to go through hardships or not to go through hardships itself. They can define what kind of experience is best for their Hajj itself, right? But third response, even if it's okay, because even if it is difference in exclusive treatments, we say it's okay because the trade-off at the end of the day is that less people are able to access Mecca itself, right? And other than that, they also brought up an idea that this kind of they also brought up the idea that if you don't commercialize it, other bodies can come in and exert control, and maybe like they can control the Saudis who allow people to come in, right? No, we say the Saudis are like that because of their nature itself, right? The proud nature they have in having Muka on their land itself. Even without commercializing it, we still believe that they will not allow any other foreign bodies to come in and exert any kind of pressure, right? Moving on to my first substantive, but before that, one of you quickly.
There are specific things you can do to expiate your sins. Reading, understanding, and dying from it. It's not that. That's not God's mandate. That's commercialization and harms of mismanagement.
Simple. Stampede itself happens because a lot of people wants to go to Mecca. Are you trying to say it's a natural cause itself? It's not because of commercialization. The trade-off is that you won't allow other people to come in just because you wanna curb these instances of stampede that occurs once in like 2 years or something, right? But moving on to the first substantive, how it helps the most vulnerable part of the society. Opening came up here and touched about it a little bit, right? But we're going to go more thorough. What do we mean? Because first of all, there are people who come from the rural areas who don't even have information about Hajj themselves, right? Because they don't have the luxury of going to internet or going to or going somewhere, right? The only thing they have is one TV in the whole village, and they get information from that. We believe at the end of the day, when you have commercializations, more ads are going to be there. More kind of agencies are willing to walk you through the steps one by one. We believe commercializing results in an influx of information given to all the people. But more than those, people who are poor, who really need this kind of spiritual safe haven, you're taking this opportunity away from them by not allowing them to go. But moreover, the disabled people, through commercialization, this kind of Saudi's government are more inclined in order to build facilities which allow all these kind of disabled people to go, because they have like special lanes for disabled people who uses wheelchair. Without commercializing, they don't even have that kind of incentive to do it. But second of all, right, our most unique contribution is how it curbs the idea of Islamophobia. Because at the end of the day, the recent incident is that National Geographic had covered an event in Hajj in session and shown to the world how beautiful the religion of Islam itself is, right? We know that counter media would occur, but we believe the influx of people showing how beautiful Hajj is at the end of the day would overpower this kind of counter. And at the end of the day, we believe that without commercializing, people don't find an incentive in order to documentize all this kind of Islamic procedures and so on and so forth. We believe commercializing is the best way to promote Islam and curb Islamophobia. Thank you.
Alright, taking the opposition now invite something.
Mr. Speaker, I'm just a random Chinese boy in a room full of Islamic people who understand everything to do about Haji. But the difference between me and everyone else in this room besides Wazir is that I actually know what Haji is for. It's to test your strength and the willingness to sacrifice towards your God. Meaning not living in a 5-star hotel and living a luxurious life while I walk in with other people and I'll drink ice cold water and enjoy myself and then take a selfie, check this off my list and tell everyone that I am spiritually fulfilled and I am religious. We think the redefinition of Haji in itself has already caused massive amounts of harms towards the quality, towards individuals on how they want to experience Hajj. Under their best case scenario, if they want to say that you should be able to define your own spiritual fulfillment, we are okay with that. But unfortunately, you defining your own spiritual fulfillment under their side means it harms the quality of other people under our side. What does this mean? This means that the other people who say that I want to live in luxurious hotels near the place where you're supposed to walk, in these instances, that means that you're harming other people, because all these other people have to stay in cheaper hotels where they don't have the geographical proximity near towards the place that they have to go. There's less bus facilities towards these individuals and things like that. That means that redefinition of Hajj in itself is already a bad thing if it comes at the cost of other people as a whole. I'm going to discuss my extension today, but before that, a few points of responses. Firstly, a lot of things that side closing opposition said was more rehashes than what opening opposition said. When they say poor people can enter because it's easier to access, because competition makes prices cheaper, we think that already came out from side opening opposition, but let's be nice to them and respond to it. Commercialization means that yes, you do get a cheaper price, but it's extremely hard for you to go there. Commercialization means that you have to stay in other places because the cheapest price means the worst package, where you have a horrible flight, where you have a horrible hotel and where you have to walk the longest distance, where you can't even enjoy yourself because you're watching other rich people enjoying themselves in Hajj, where you see rich people being able to just take a cab or take a bus tour towards that place while you have to walk there. It makes your quality and your life even worse. So we think that therefore, even though poor people can enter, the quality that you have in these instances aren't that bad. But the comparative under our side is that poor people can still enter. Under our side, people can still enter because there'll still be facilities there for you to be able to go in. It's just not a competition of 5-star hotels where the Hilton Hotel will suddenly come in. Sit down. Then she gave this really weird, two really weird arguments. Firstly, she said that now you allow disabled people to come in because now there are facilities. Like, I don't think under our side people will make people who are disabled like crawl towards your Hajj. So obviously we'll have facilities for these people, right? That's not something that's luxurious. That doesn't need commercialization to happen. We think people who have general human principles would be able to help facilitate these people. But secondly, she said Islamophobia. Now National Geographic would document this place. I think it's quite bad that National Geographic will document people who are supposed to be the pioneers of the religious institutions relaxing in the pool in the Hilton as a whole. We think that's extremely harmful towards the perception of Islamic people because they're not really religious, they're just going there for a holiday. But we think under our side, you still document it because it's something that's juicy, a juicy story towards individuals, where we show the hardships of people where they don't live in a luxurious hotel, but they have to go through immense troubles to enjoy this and get this spiritual fulfillment. So we think that under our side, documentaries can still happen. Let's talk about our extension, right? We had 4 levels towards it. Firstly, how does redefinition of Haji happen? So opening government talked a lot about how it's luxurious and things like that. But we extended on it more because now we said that it becomes like something that is cool and popular, that's something that you don't really want to go to, but you go to because in the end, you think it spiritually fulfills you. Where you can take selfies and you can check it off your list saying that I'm a good Islamic person because I went for this Haji. We think it's because of this that now you trivialize this Hajj as a whole, because it's not something that is exclusive and it's not something that is hard anymore. It's something like a holiday in which you are comfortable in doing these things. But then they say, and this is what opening opposition said towards opening government, which they didn't really manage to respond to, right? They say that you can still live in a 5-star hotel, but you can still have the hardship when you do that walk around that place. We think here's the difference, right? Because with the commercialization, that means that these corporations who help out in this facilitating people to go inside Hajj, means that these people will give you the specific times where it's not that hot, or will give you like ice water or things like that, or you give you like electronic wheelchairs or things like that to make your Hajj easier. So even during the Hajj when you're walking, it's a lot easier because you're not following what the City Hajjah person did, because now you're enjoying yourself and it's a lot easier for you to enjoy these things. That's why commercialization happens. Because now the competition between corporations means that for me to be the nicest corporation towards rich people, I'm going to be the one who facilitates the easiest form of Hajj for you. That means that means the quality of it and the difficulty level of it is a lot harder. Before I move on, closing.
So let's respond that even during the Prophet's time, there's already a difference in treatment between people. So why is it exclusive now?
Because the Prophet is damn important compared to other people. You shouldn't say that rich people who have more money are more important, should be able to ride on a camel's back, while poor people have to walk as a whole. So we think that the Prophet, I think he's quite important. I'm not really that religious, but I think the Prophet is quite important as compared to other people. Second level, we told you about the trivialization, and this is where I respond to opening opposition. Because the use of development and economic policies just to get money heavily is like, it's just disgusting, right? So we're trivializing people's need of spiritual fulfillment just so that we can get money. We think the act of itself is already something that's morally abhorrent because we're trivializing and we're objectifying these individuals as people not who want to go to Hajj, but people who can make money off. People who will make sure that you buy souvenirs from this experience so that we can make money out of you. We think that's already something that is bad. Sit down. Then thirdly, and this is what opening government say, I'm going to conclude the argument for them. They say that poor people can't go in because they have really bad places and rich people can enjoy Hajj. We think that what you need to say also is why poor people, if we have to choose whether between poor people or rich people, why do poor people need this spiritual fulfillment more? Because a poor person has no joy in life. He sits back and he has to watch rich people enjoy their life while I'm trying to get food when I'm always hungry. And the only thing I can lean back to is spiritual fulfillment. Rich people, even though we might regret this, maybe we deprive them of spiritual fulfillment. We think it's a lot more important for poor people because these are the people who need it the most, and this is the only form of happiness that these people can receive. Lastly, then the response that slight closing opposition gave towards us is that the sense of fulfillment is subjective. Yeah, it is subjective, but to a certain extent, we think we need to make it as objective as possible when you go through hardships. So you can't say that the sense of fulfillment is subjective, because in that instance, that means the people who have gone through all the hardships wouldn't feel great, because other people could have gotten the spiritual fulfillment through other easier means to do so. Also, we say the interaction doesn't happen because now you segregate each other, where the rich people stay in their cool tents while the poor people have to go here. The corporations will give the rich people the perfect time where it's not that hot to go with each other. The poor people won't be able to do so. Commercialization is horrible. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. With now I invite Hopwood to end the hearing.
It is unfortunate that even at the end of the debate, I need to re-explain to people what commercialization really means, because it seems that they don't understand what it really means. Commercialization basically means more people can access to Hajj, which means that packages will be cheaper. Maybe it is not as cheap as you want it to be, but comparatively, it's affordable. Because imagine this, splitting the cost in a pool of people will create a cheaper price in comparison, where you have to buy an individual ticket to go to a place where you might not have proper knowledge about it, especially when you don't speak the language. There's no one to talk about it. Obviously, it's more expensive and more harder. We admit it's expensive now, but at least it is affordable and comparatively better. So this is how I'm gonna split my speech, right? First, I'll deal with the closing, which basically is a 16-minute version of Bunny's speech, a rehash, and then I'll deal with the opening, right? Because now we've all come to a conclusion where we agree that we want the religious experience to be good, but which house provides the better one? Let's take a look at closing. They talked about how, oh, Hajj is for you to test the faith and whatnot. Yes, we agree to that. But what's the difference here is that there's an option for you to, let's say, opt for a 5-star hotel. But if you really, really want to test your faith, you want to walk a longer distance, there's 3-star hotels that are placed slightly further and whatnot. And one thing that we need to acknowledge is Islam, or any other religion for that matter, usually takes challenges, tests as a form of an achievement. It's like if you go through hardship, that means you're attaining some form of blessing. You're removing some form of sin. That's why we fast during the Ramadan, right? And whatnot. So I'm guessing that although they kind of assume that, you know, self-fulfillment, spiritual journey, that's quite vague from their side, we can also tell you that walking through this distance can give people self-fulfillment, can give them the spiritual journey that they so want to provide in today's debate, right? And then they come up here and talk about an even funnier talk about how, oh, we need to bring all Muslims together, the third world country Muslims with the first world country Muslims. Here's an experience for someone who has been there. Right? They have like no special place in the mosque for rich people or poor people. In fact, they have to sit there together. And thank God, because of commercialization, they are able to expand the size of the mosque, which could cater to more number of people. And for the first time now, a lot of people from different countries, regardless whether it's rich or poor, can be there, can gather, and can socialize. This is something that they can never handle, especially in a world where it's uncommercialized. The size is small, you cannot accommodate to a certain number of people. There will be a cap into how many people they would allow inside the city of Mecca. That's one thing they can never have without commercialization. And then they talked about how, oh, people feel the need to go to Hajj because it's commercialized. In some ways it's true, but it's not necessarily bad, because even without commercialization, we are taught since we were young by our ustads and ustazas in school that this is one of the pillars of the Islam. And maybe instead of spending your money on other things, you should start saving to go to Hajj. So even without commercialization, comparatively, it's easier for people to go to Hajj that they know they have to, in a way where there's no proper agency to cater for this, there's no proper knowledge provided for them to make it easier for them to achieve this journey. Let's deal with the opening, right? She talked about one of the few things Bunny talked about was the package is expensive and whatnot. I've already told you it's comparatively cheaper. And then she talked about you can't get spiritual journey because now you don't live near historical sites and whatnot in hotels. Let me tell you one thing. They don't build hotels inside historical sites or even near and whatnot. And let me also break a few myths out. There's no pool, there's no car. In fact, you can count the number of cars in the cities of Mecca. Everyone, regardless of where you stay, you need to walk to the mosque yourself. You don't get to stay leisurely. It's not a holiday, it's where you go and you perform your Hajj. As a matter of fact, you can't just wear anything you want. Everybody has to wear a certain types of clothing. They don't get to shower themselves in gold or whatever they want to paint it. So that means everyone is in some ways equal in certain areas, but maybe in terms of accommodation, it's slightly different. But there they have an option to choose whether, I want to stay further. And even if they have to stay further because there's no option, they can still achieve spiritual fulfillment, right? And then they want to talk about how religion is supposed to be inclusive and whatnot. You destroy the notion of how you go there for reasons other than religion. We tell you that's not true, because you don't just solely go to Mecca because you want a vacation and whatnot. Obviously, there are other places you can go to that, and people who are rich mostly, if let's say they want to go for fun, Hajj would be the last place that they want to go to, especially when Hajj is not just a place, it's a specific form of things, actions that you need to do on certain dates. And what's even funnier is that she tries to compare how you handle Hajj places with other historical sites. Let me tell you, you can't compare this, no thank you, because other specific religious sites don't receive a huge number in just a few days, because Hajj happens on from 10th to 14th of Zulhijjah. That means you need to handle a huge influx number of people. You need to have the ability to accommodate to that, and for that to happen, of course, you need to maybe profit from it so that the profit can be recycled to maintain this things and whatnot, right? And then they talked about how, they're going to be political gain, suddenly they want to bring out the pro-Wahhabi. They never really draw the line from non-commercialization. Suddenly the government will be non-pro-Wahhabi, and suddenly the Saudis will listen to other people. As a matter of fact, they're very proud of it to the point that they don't want to, but yes.
Are you okay with all the objectives of Hajj are not fulfilled as long as more people can go to Hajj in the first place?
The thing is, for an objective of Hajj to be fulfilled, it has nothing to do with accommodation and whatnot, okay? Because you just need to go there and do this certain few of actions. And what's better on our side is that more people get to perform the objectives of Hajj, because now the city can handle a larger number of people because of commercialization. This is something that can never happen in their world. Let me paint to you what's going to happen in their world. In a world that they want to protect, there's no proper accommodation to accommodate to a large number of people. That means only those who can afford it, who probably have some connection to enter the country and whatnot, because there's a cap. You need to understand there's a cap. They can only reach certain numbers of people are the only people who can fulfill their religious objectives. Others who have no means and whatnot can't do this. And what I already told you about how this creates inaccessibility, what we meant is now poor people and disabled people can enter this more easily, and especially with disabled people, how the Hajj now is, they have 3-tier tawaf area and a specific lane for disabled people to do this, to perform their action in a more proper, comfortable way. And this is something that can never happen unless commercialization exists. We believe that we're the only house and we're the only side in today's debate that caters to different type of people, allowing accessibility to different types of people. That is something that they are not willing to protect.
Right. How may cross-policy benefit of that? Well, lagi, you sa IIU what?
Look is good, right?
Yeah, okay.